Royal Caribbean is famous for going bigger and bolder with every new ship, but not every class hits the mark. Some are modern marvels that feel like floating cities, while others are showing their age. So today we're ranking every Royal Caribbean class of ships, from worst to best, to see which ones still shine and which ones have sailed past their prime. Alright y'all, so that's the polished hook. But you know that moment on day 2 of a cruise where you realize you picked the right ship? The one where you're just like, yeah, this feels right. That's what we're chasing here. Hey y'all, I'm Evan with Family at Sea, where we help make every cruise unforgettable. Royal Caribbean's fleet can be confusing at first. You've got ship names that sound like sequels, classes that overlap, and price tags that don't always match the experience. But once you know what each class is really built for, everything starts to click. Some are designed for pure adventure and others for calm and comfort, and a few just don't know what they want to be anymore. So I pulled the data, sailed the ships, and listened to cruisers from all over to figure out which classes still deliver that Royal Caribbean magic and which ones are ready to retire. If you're ready, I am. Let's go. Alright, before we get into these rankings, a quick note. I'm ranking these by class rather than breaking out every individual ship. Most ships within the same class share the same DNA and deliver nearly identical experiences, so calling out each one individually would really just be repeating myself over and over. But ranking by class keeps the focus on what truly matters, how each generation of ship feels to sail, and what makes one era of Royal Caribbean ships different from the next. So I'm going to be judging each class on the things that shape your cruise: the design and flow of the ship, the energy of the crowd, the food and entertainment, and how well it all comes together once you're on board. So with that out of the way, let's start from the bottom with the oldest class still sailing under the Royal Caribbean name. Division-class ships mark the end of Royal Caribbean's old guard, a reminder of when cruising was about connection and calm rather than cutting-edge thrills. These ships, the grandeur, rhapsody, enchantment, and vision of the seas, were built in the 1990s, long before cruise lines started racing for the title of biggest in the world. Each comes in around 78,000 gross tons and carries roughly 2,000 passengers, which by Royal Caribbean standards feels almost intimate, and you'll notice it the second you step on board. The hallways are narrower, the ceilings are lower, and the entertainment feels more like an evening in a hotel lounge than a Vegas-style spectacle. That simplicity, though, is also a perk. Smaller ships mean quieter decks, fewer crowds, and a crew that actually learns your name. These ships specialize in classic destination-focused routes, including short Caribbean sailings, journeys through the Greek Isles, and scenic Panama Canal crossings that larger ships simply can't access due to their size. But the trade-offs are obvious, with limited dining options, dated decor, and entertainment that feels more small-town theater than Broadway spectacle. Still, there's something comforting about Division class. They remind you what cruising used to be, back when the journey itself mattered more than the endless onboard distractions. The cabins are tight, sure, and the hardware is aging, but the warmth of the crew and the easygoing vibe keep loyal fans coming back. For travelers who care more about where they're going than endless onboard distractions, these ships are a relaxed and affordable way to see the world. Just don't expect Royal Caribbean's signature wow factor, because Division class isn't here to impress. It's here to remind you why people fell in love with cruising in the first place. The Voyager class ships marked the turning point when Royal Caribbean decided to think bigger, literally. These ships, the Voyager, Explorer, Adventure, Navigator, and Mariner of the Seas, launched in the late 90s and early 2000s and set the stage for the megaships that followed. Each is roughly 137,000 gross tons and carries 3,100 passengers, which made them groundbreaking in their time and still surprisingly lively today. They introduced innovations that shaped what Royal Caribbean became known for: the first ever Royal Promenade, which is an indoor boulevard packed with bars, shops, and parades; the first ice skating rink at sea; and the now iconic rock climbing wall. Those features might seem standard now, but they were revolutionary when these ships debuted. And even 2 decades later, they still managed to feel fun and familiar rather than outdated. The crowd on Voyager class ships is a mix of families, first time cruisers, and budget conscious travelers who want the Royal Caribbean experience without paying icon class prices. Many of the ships have been amplified, which is Royal Caribbean's term for when they renovate things. They've added water slides, Playmaker sports bars, updated the pool decks, and refreshed the staterooms in the process. The Navigator and Mariner in particular shine after their makeovers, offering a balance between classic design and modern energy. Of course, the age shows in spots. Not every ship in the class has been refurbished yet, and the layouts can feel tight on sea days. The shows are smaller, and the buffet lacks the variety of the newer ships, but the vibe is pure Royal Caribbean that's full of energy and easy to love. For many cruisers, the Voyager class represents the sweet spot between nostalgia and adventure. They're not the flashiest ships at sea, but they're the ones that define what fun at sea means, and they still deliver that promise today. And look, if hearing all that has you thinking, okay, Evan, but how do I actually book the right ship without blowing my budget? Well, that's where Cruises It comes in. They're the travel agency we trust for every trip we take. You're not getting a call center or an automated system. You're getting a real person who knows your ship, your itinerary, and actually cares whether you're starting your vacation the right way. They've saved us thousands, unlocked perks we didn't even know existed, and made sure we never end up like Frank, who once bragged about scoring a cabin in a really active part of the ship, but didn't realize it was directly under the gym. Frank, if your ceiling starts doing jumping jacks before sunrise, you didn't just book a cabin, you booked a wake up call. With their low price guarantee and a team that genuinely knows cruising, Cruises It makes the entire process easier and a whole lot cheaper. So click the link in the description or call the number on the screen and tell them Evan from Family at Sea sent you. You'll be glad you did. The Quantum class ships marked a bold new chapter for Royal Caribbean. Built between 2014 and 2016, these ships, the Quantum, Anthem, and Ovation of the Seas, were the first to trade spectacle for sophistication. Each comes in at roughly 168,000 gross tons and carries about 4,200 passengers, placing them squarely between the mid-sized workhorses and the Oasis class giants that came before. These ships were designed to impress through innovation rather than scale. They introduced the North Star, which is a glass observation capsule that rises high above the ocean, Ripcord by iFly, which was a skydiving simulator at sea, and 270, which is a theater that transforms from panoramic windows by day into a multimedia spectacle by night. At launch, the Quantum was dubbed the Smart Ship, and for good reason. It was the first in the fleet to feature digital check-in, RFID wristbands, and faster Wi-Fi that actually worked. But for all their tech-forward brilliance, the Quantum-class ships can feel more cerebral than spirited. Much of the ship is enclosed with smaller pool decks and more indoor space, which makes sense for cooler weather routes like Alaska or Northern Europe, but sacrifices that open-air Caribbean energy Royal is known for. The entertainment is creative but hit or miss, and the dining variety is solid though less expansive than on newer ships. Still, these ships deliver a sleek, comfortable cruise experience. They attract couples, older families, and travelers who prefer refinement over adrenaline. Quantum class ships aren't about the biggest thrills, they're about thoughtful design, high tech comfort, and a slower, more modern kind of adventure at sea. The Radiance class ships are the quiet achievers in Royal Caribbean's lineup. Built in the early 2000s, these ships, the Radiance, Brilliance, Serenade, and Jewel of the Seas, are smaller by modern standards, around 90,000 gross tons and carrying roughly 2,100 passengers. But they're some of the most beloved among seasoned cruisers. These are the ships that feel designed for the sea itself, wrapped in glass from bow to stern so that nearly every public space has a view. If the Voyager and Freedom classes represent Royal Caribbean's fun-loving side, the Radiance class is its calm, scenic counterpart. The design is elegant without feeling stuffy, with airy atriums, floor-to-ceiling windows, and a connection to the ocean that even the megaships can't replicate. They sail some of the line's most beautiful itineraries, including Alaska, the Panama Canal, and the Norwegian fjords, where each voyage feels like part of the scenery rather than a distraction from it. What's missing in scale, they make up for in soul. You won't find a water park or Broadway-style theater, but you'll get cozy lounges, solid dining options, and a pace that feels deliberate rather than slow. The crowd skews older and more experienced, with people who've been there, done that, and now just want a ship that helps them enjoy the view. The Radiance class doesn't shout for attention, and that's exactly why people love it. It's bright, peaceful, and built for travelers who care more about what's outside the window than what's happening on the pool deck. For anyone that actually wants to feel the sea again, this is the class that gets you the closest to it. On a personal level, sometimes I think this is what cruising was always meant to be. Just you, a quiet deck, and the sound of the wake behind the ship. No noise and no distractions, and just a reminder that the ocean doesn't need to try so hard to impress you. The Quantum Ultra class ships take everything Royal Caribbean learned from the original Quantum design, made it smoother, brighter, and more fun. There are only two ships in this class, the Spectrum of the Seas and the Odyssey of the Seas, with both sitting around 169,000 gross tons and carrying roughly 4,200 passengers. They're big but not overwhelming and built for people who want innovation without chaos. Think of this class as Quantum refined. The layouts feel more open, the colors are warmer, and the pool decks are more inviting. On the Odyssey, the pool area feels like a resort in Miami, complete with colorful loungers, cabanas, and an upbeat energy that the Quantum class ships never quite captured. The Spectrum, which sails mostly in Asia, adds a more luxurious touch with its exclusive suite enclave, which is a private retreat with its own restaurant, lounge, and sun deck. And both ships retain the best Quantum features, including the ripcord skydiving, the North Star observation capsule, and the 270 theater, while adding more personality and polish throughout. Entertainment is bolder and more confident here with high-tech shows that actually feel emotional instead of experimental. Dining took a giant leap forward as well, with venues like Giovanni's Italian Kitchen and Teppanyaki joining the lineup. It feels like Royal Caribbean finally figured out how to balance sleek design with the warmth that makes the brand feel familiar. These ships attract a mix of families and couples who want something fresh and high-end without committing to the size or price tag of the Oasis or Icon classes. They're modern, comfortable, and visually stunning without trying too hard to be cutting edge. If the Quantum class was Royal Caribbean's big experiment, the Quantum Ultra class is the successful sequel that proved the formula works, it just needed some refinements. The Freedom class ships represent the moment when Royal Caribbean truly hit its stride, offering a scale that feels exciting while still maintaining a personal touch. This trio, the Freedom, Liberty, and Independence of the Seas, launched between 2006 and 2008, coming in at roughly 155,000 gross tons and carrying around 3,600 passengers. For many cruisers, this class delivers the perfect balance of variety, comfort, and value. When they debuted, these ships were the largest in the world, introducing now classic features like the Flowrider surf simulator and the family-friendly H2O zone. But what's made them endure is how well they've adapted. After their amplifications, Freedom-class ships feel surprisingly modern with brighter pool decks that have lime and coconut bars, Playmaker sports bar, water slides, and reimagined dining that keeps pace with much newer ships. They've become the standard for reliable fun and continue to prove that some ships never lose their charm. The crowd here is broad, including families, couples, friend groups, and repeat cruisers who all want the energy of Royal Caribbean without the sprawl of an Icon or Oasis-class ship. The layout still feels intuitive with every venue a short walk away and plenty of variety packed into each deck. The entertainment isn't massive, but it's lively and polished, and the dining choices hit a sweet spot between comfort and creativity. Sure, you'll spot some signs of age with smaller cabins and less high-tech flair, but the experience holds up beautifully. These ships are approachable, upbeat, and unmistakably Royal Caribbean in spirit. If the Voyager class defined what cruising fun could be, the Freedom class perfected it. It's the ideal middle ground for travelers who want the excitement of a big ship and the warmth of a smaller one, proving that sometimes just right really is the best place to be. The Oasis class ships redefined what a cruise ship could be. When the Oasis of the Seas launched back in 2009, it was twice the size of most competitors, coming in at nearly 227,000 gross tons and carrying more than 5,400 passengers. And somehow, it still didn't feel crowded. Today, the class includes the Oasis, Allure, Harmony, Symphony, Wonder, and Utopia of the Seas. And there's a seventh on the way, and each one has evolved the design that changed modern cruising forever. The class introduced the idea of neighborhoods at sea, with each one feeling like its own little world. Central Park brings real trees and evening jazz, the boardwalk has a working carousel and aqua theater, and the Royal Promenade is the social heart of the ship, complete with parades, bars, and live music. Even now, more than 15 years later, that design still feels smart and effortless. Over the years, Royal Caribbean has refined the formula with new dining, upgraded entertainment, and better crowd flow. The wonder and utopia of the seas represent the class at its peak, with dedicated suite neighborhoods, modernized pool decks, and upgraded technology that makes even the largest ships feel easy to navigate. The energy on board is constant but never chaotic. It's like a floating city that actually works. Of course, size does come with trade offs. The Oasis class isn't for those looking for peace and quiet. It's a ship built for action, not solitude. But if you want entertainment, variety, and nonstop energy, there's nothing else like it. For a lot of cruisers, this class is Royal Caribbean. It's the perfect mix of big moments, smart design, and that heart on your sleeve energy the brand's known for. They're massive, yes, but they're also proof that even at sea, big can still feel brilliant. The Icon class ships are the boldest leap Royal Caribbean has ever taken. They're massive, inventive, and designed to be the ultimate all-in-one vacation. The Icon of the Seas debuted in 2024 as the world's largest cruise ship at roughly 251,000 gross tons and carrying close to 7,600 passengers at full capacity. Even with its size, it's less a ship and more a floating resort city that somehow feels like it was built around every type of traveler all at once. Everything about this class was designed to push boundaries. It introduced Category 6, which is the largest water park at sea with 6 slides towering above the top deck. It's also home to 7 pools, each with its own mood from family-friendly fun and surfside to infinity edge calm and the adults-only hideaway. The Aquadome replaced the traditional Aqua Theater with a curved glass dome and futuristic shows that mix water, acrobatics, and digital effects. And then there's Crown's Edge, a suspended obstacle course that literally hangs you over the ocean before pulling you back to safety. But what really makes the Icon class special is how it blends that over-the-top fun with smarter design. The neighborhoods flow naturally, the tech works seamlessly, and the ships feel more intuitive than it has any right to. It's a massive feat of engineering that somehow still feels organized, with quiet corners tucked between all the action. The Icon class isn't for travelers chasing solitude, but it's for just about everybody else. Families, thrill seekers, and anyone who loves a ship that feels alive from sunrise to midnight. And it is without a doubt the new standard for what a cruise ship can be, turning the ocean itself into part of the spectacle. Guys, look, I'll be honest. One of my favorite moments on any cruise ship ever was on the Star of the Seas inaugural sail not that long ago. It was the last day of the cruise, and I was getting footage of a few areas that I still need to grab before the cruise is over. I happened to pass by the overlook at the forward of the ship behind the Aquadome Theater, and the sun was setting, and it was just one of the most surreal moments I've ever experienced at sea. Here I was on the world's largest cruise ship, but it felt like the rest of the ship just stopped existing for a moment, and it was just me, the ocean, and the sun setting on the horizon. And as I stood there watching that sunset, it hit me how far Royal Caribbean has come and how every class tells a part of Royal Caribbean's story, where it started, how it grew, and what it's chasing next. But here's the bad news. Not every ship in the fleet lives up to that potential. Even the biggest and best ones still have moments that don't quite measure up. But the good news? The Star of the Seas isn't one of them. It shows that Royal Caribbean's not just chasing bigger, they're chasing better, and they're not done yet. So don't stop here. Come hang out with me in that one where I break down everything I loved and everything I didn't during my time on board the Star of the Seas. If you're ready, I am. Let's go.